I found out my company had been sold when I saw the press release on LinkedIn. My co-founder of 6 years had transferred every asset, every client, every dollar, and signed my name on the paperwork. I never saw a cent. Marcus and Daniel met in college. Two broke kids with a vision and a whiteboard full of ideas. By their late 20s, they'd built something real, a B2B software company with 40 clients and just under $2 million in annual revenue. On paper, they were equal partners, 50-50. Everything split down the middle. The wins, the losses, the late nights, the stress. But there's something nobody tells you about 50-50 partnerships. When things get good enough, 50% starts to feel like not enough for someone. And for Daniel, it had started feeling that way for a long time. The first sign came 18 months before everything collapsed. Daniel started taking meetings Marcus didn't know about. Small things at first. A lunch here, a call there. When Marcus asked about them, Daniel brushed it off. Investor conversations, he said. Routine stuff. Nothing worth reporting. Marcus believed him. Why wouldn't he? They'd built everything together. They'd shaken hands over a deal when they had nothing. That kind of history doesn't just disappear. But what Marcus didn't know was that Daniel had already hired a lawyer. Not a business lawyer, a mergers and acquisitions lawyer. 6 months before Marcus noticed anything was wrong, Daniel had quietly begun the process of selling the company to a private equity firm that had been circling them for years. The deal Daniel was structuring had one very specific detail buried in the paperwork. Marcus's shares were listed as non-voting. He hadn't agreed to that. He hadn't signed anything making that true. But in a document filed 8 months earlier, a document Marcus had signed without reading closely during a routine filing, a single clause had been amended. One line, changed by Daniel's lawyer without Marcus's knowledge. It made everything that followed technically legal. The sale closed on a Tuesday in October. Marcus found out on a Thursday. Not from Daniel, not from their lawyer, not from the acquiring firm. From LinkedIn. A press release. Exciting news, our company has been acquired. Daniel's name everywhere. No mention of Marcus. Not one word. Marcus called Daniel immediately, straight to voicemail. He called their business lawyer, who informed him uncomfortably that he had actually been removed as a point of contact on the account 4 months prior. He called the acquiring firm directly. Their legal team told him the transaction was complete and all documentation had been properly executed. He sat in his car outside his apartment for 2 hours. 6 years, $2 million in revenue. 40 clients they had built relationships with personally. Gone. And the worst part? The number Daniel had sold it for, $4.2 million. Marcus's cut, based on the amended filing Daniel had slipped past him, was 0. But Marcus didn't just sit in that car and accept it. The morning after he found out, he drove to their old office, the one they'd rented together when the company was just 2 guys and a dream. He sat in the parking lot for 20 minutes before going inside. The receptionist, a woman named Claire, who had been with them since year 1, looked up when he walked in. Her expression told him everything. She already knew. Everyone already knew. He asked to see his office. She told him quietly that it had been cleared out 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. The sale hadn't even been announced yet. Daniel had been so confident Marcus wouldn't find out, or wouldn't be able to do anything about it, that he'd already had his things removed before the ink was dry. Marcus took out his phone and started photographing everything: the empty office, the cleared shelves, the nameplate on the door that had already been replaced. Not because he knew exactly what he was looking for, but because something told him to document everything he could before it disappeared. That instinct saved him, because what Marcus didn't know yet was that Claire had been keeping something. For 3 months, she had watched things happen in that office that didn't sit right with her. Late-night meetings with people she didn't recognize, documents being printed and shredded. Phone calls Daniel took outside where nobody could hear. She hadn't said anything because she needed her job. But when Marcus walked in, that morning looking like a man who had lost everything, she made a decision. She handed him a USB drive. On it were copies of 6 internal emails she had saved. Emails between Daniel and the acquiring firm, dating back 14 months. Emails that discussed Marcus by name. Emails that outlined exactly how to structure the deal to minimize his ability to challenge it legally. One email in particular stood out. Sent on a Sunday night at 11 p.m., Daniel had written to the firm's lead attorney with 3 words that would later be read aloud in a deposition. Marcus won't know. What happened next is where this story gets complicated. Marcus hired an attorney, a good one. And when that attorney started pulling documents, what they found wasn't just one altered clause. There were 3 separate filings over a 14-month period, each one quietly shifting voting rights, ownership percentages, and signatory authority away from Marcus and toward Daniel. Each one had Marcus's signature on it. Marcus swore he had never seen 2 of them in his life. His attorney believed him, because buried in the metadata of those documents, the digital fingerprints that most people never think to check, was something Daniel hadn't counted on. The documents had been opened, edited, and re-signed on dates that didn't match the filing dates, and the IP address that had accessed them both times, Daniel's home network. The case settled out of court 18 months later. Marcus cannot disclose the terms, but his attorney has confirmed publicly that the settlement was, in his words, significant. Daniel's LinkedIn profile has been private ever since. Marcus now runs a new company, smaller, leaner, and this time with no co-founder. He told his story publicly for one reason: because he wishes someone had told him sooner that the person most likely to betray you in business isn't a stranger. It's the person sitting across from you at the founding table. The person you trusted most. The one who knew exactly what you'd built, because they helped you build it. If this story hit close to home, subscribe, because next week we're covering the case of a woman who discovered her business partner had been running a shadow company using their client list for 3 years. She only found out when one of their clients called to ask why they were being billed twice. That story drops next week. Don't miss it.